Hi, welcome to my presentation. Today I'll be talking about the Southern Gothic, one of my favorite literary genres, and I find it very relevant today in how it relates to a lot of political anguish and social anguish that we see in 2020 with race, violence, and a potential compromise on reproductive rights and a potential decay of civility in society as we know it. Because the Southern Gothic talks primarily on the sort of grotesque aspects of society and how a lot of it is still just not necessarily grotesque when elaborated upon, but because of how it's perceived on a societal level, the characters often are portrayed as such. And it originated in England in the mid to late 18th century. And of course Mary Shelley was later, but this is a great example of what the genre once was and how it aligned a lot with the beauty of pastoral and kind of magical realism of nature alongside monsters and grotesque characters such as ghosts and humans as well, just people with really societally perceived antisocial behaviors. And it came to prominence first in the South with Edgar Allan Poe and a lot of his short stories and poetry riffed off of the English tradition, and then it became more and more clear as time went on with William Faulkner and Flannery O'Connor, Carson McCullers even, just how they portrayed societally repressed people who classically are perceived antisocial, but really have a human and struggling side of their character that a lot of people could relate with. Carson McCullers in The Heart is the Lonely Hunter depicts a mute and deaf and gay man that has no friends when his roommate is taken away from him. And he goes into these phases of forming relationships with people, and they seem to have some sense that he is special and that he has a some sort of extra sense of character and is benefiting their lives, but in the end he is less benefited by the people around him and is stuck with loneliness and oppression. And monsters, outcasts, and ambivalence to the nature of behavior is a big key voice of a narrator in the Southern Gothic, and a good example is Flannery O'Connor's A Good Man is Hard to Find. The main character talks a lot about how she really values a good moral standing in a man, and that it's really hard to find a man that has good morals. And the whole story, she's freaked out about this serial killer that's out to get her, and in the end the absurd irrational happens and the serial killer does find her, but before she becomes a victim of murder, he really just talks. She's pleading with him, and she finally goes into the fact that he's definitely a good man, and that he can change, and that in the end that she is his mother, when that's not true at all, in any way. But Flannery O'Connor's trying to sort of reveal the fact that our morals are very much a subject to our situation, and they can change in an instant. But I feel like a lot of the time the narrator in Southern Gothic is outside of the moral guide, like the moral code of the readers. It's just sort of an examination. But the genre is very vast, and Dorothy Allison, in an interview, talks about how it's such a broad genre, and she is trying to make it known to be larger than it is, or larger than it was, and including works such as Beloved by Toni Morrison, a lot of books by Toni Morrison, a lot of short stories by James Baldwin, who wrote primarily from the New York City area, but those subjects still fit in the Southern Gothic because they have the same sort of the same sentiment and social commentary. And then there are movies today that talk about monsters of addiction, and they call upon a lot of themes from the Southern Gothic and how they both sympathize and make grotesque the characters and their stories. And that's all I have for the presentation. Thank you.